Hi, since now we have completed our reconnaissance phase, we're going to focus on finding vulnerabilities in the website servers. So we're going to use Metasploitable and Nmap together within this section as well. So now if you're ready, let's get started.
Hi! Within this lecture, we're going to see how to discover a vulnerability called code execution vulnerability and ways to exploit that vulnerability. And we're going to use Metasploitable 2 again in order to test and practice this. And later on, we're going to see some other basic vulnerabilities as well. And starting from the next section, we're going to move on to more advanced vulnerabilities in web pen testing subject. But for right now, we're going to work with DVWA, so you better start your Metasploitable 2 and your Kali Linux, of course on the same NAT network. And you can reach your Metasploitable 2 dashboard with going to your Firefox and writing the IP address of Metasploitable 2 like we did before. So if you do that, it will take you through the dashboard of Metasploitable 2 where you can reach the DVWA and Matildae. And we're going to work with both Matildae and DVWA throughout the web pen testing sections, but for right now, I'm going to show you the basic vulnerabilities in DVWA. Previously, we took a look to the Matildae as well, maybe you remember, and if you click on here, it will open a web page, but later we will come to here. But right now I'm going into the DVWA, and if it asks for a username and password, username is admin and password is password. So this is a website, and suppose this website has some different sections, different menus, okay? In the left hand side, we see some menus. And remember, we have to configure this DVWA security to be low. So right now I'm in my website, and suppose I'm trying to find a vulnerability in this website. What do? First I start browsing, okay? So in here I don't have anything, but in the left hand side I have a menu. In fact, DVWA has a menu and it has some different categories for different vulnerabilities. For example, if I click on file inclusion, it will take me to a page where it has the vulnerability of file inclusion. But suppose that you're browsing a website in here and you clicked on a link which is called command execution, and it took you to a page where you can ping any website for free. So what does it mean? It means that it will run a command on the server pinging to an IP address or web page that you want. For example, we can try to ping 10.02.15. And remember, 10.02.15 is my Kali Linux IP. Of course, I can try to ping google.com as well, and it will display the result back to me. So this is a service by a web page, and we are trying to find a vulnerability within this web page. So when I see something like this, when I see an input which is running a command, I think of this. So let me open my terminal and show you what I mean. When I run a command in my terminal, I write it like this, right? Ping google.com, and it runs this command and it displays the result back to me. And it is the same thing. So a hacker will think that, can I run other commands rather than pinging the target IP, for example, an ls command? Maybe it is possible. Let us try. In order to run a multiple command in a same line, we can use a semicolon and then write the other command in here. So if I submit, as you can see, other than the ping result, now I have the ls result in here as well. So I can run any command that I want through this input box in here, and it will be executed on the web server. And it is not being executed on Kali Linux. It's being executed on Metasploitable machine. So if it was a real web page, it would be executed on the web server. So what can we do is to run a command that can create a shell from the web server to our Kali Linux machine, and we can easily hack into that machine. And we can easily see the content of the files. We can easily run some other commands from this input box as well. However, since we are at it, I believe we should learn how to open a connection back from the web server and hack into that web server. And this is a technique that you will be doing a lot when you're pen testing in a real life example, if you're dealing with systems, if you're dealing with websites. So I'm going to do that in a separate lecture. We're going to stop here, and within the next lecture we're going to focus on shellcodes giving us sessions back from the web server. Hi! Within this lecture we're going to discuss how we can use this code execution vulnerability in order to completely hack into that web server using a command tool line. So we can run some commands in the web server. We are certain of that because we have found this code execution vulnerability. And I'm going to Google reverse shell commands, and this will give us a list. Okay, as you can see, there is a reverse shell cheat sheet in here, and we have a lot of results as well. And what these commands will do is to create a session back from the web server to our Kali machine. So there are commands in order to do that. And we have various options in this case as well. We can run these bash commands, Perl commands, Python commands, PHP commands in the web server and try to get a session back. And most of the time you have to try more than one at a single pen testing, okay? Because they won't work every time, because maybe this web server is not capable of running Ruby, maybe it is capable of running Java, maybe you have to work with PHP, maybe you have to work with Netcat. You cannot know, and you should try each one of these to have a session back in your Kali Linux. So let me open my Kali Linux, and I'm going to listen for incoming connections first. In fact, we have two options at this point. I'm going to go for MSF console, the Metasploit framework that we have used before, and I'm going to set my multi-handler and listen for incoming connections. But if it doesn't work out, later on I'm going to listen with Netcat as well. Netcat is a tool in order to listen for incoming connections and manage those connections very efficiently with very simple lines. Okay, so you know how to use Metasploitable framework. I'm going to use multi-handler module, and I'm going to set my payload to be Windows meter preter reverse HTTP or reverse TCP actually, because we're going to have this connection from TCP this time. And if I show options, then I have to set my L host and L port. So I'm going to set my L host to be 10.02.15, which is my own local IP, and I have L port as 444 here. I can leave it as that, but later on you have to use the same port in the shellcode as well. Let me actually change L port to 5050 so you can see it, you can understand it better when I use it in my shellcode. So right now we are ready, and I'm going to try and exploit this and listen for incoming connections. Okay, So I'm listening at TCP connection on port 5050. And let me first try this PHP, okay? Let me copy this PHP and let me go to my DVWA, and after stating an IP address, put a semicolon here, and with a space, let me paste the command that I have copied. So it will try to execute this PHP command on the web server. Of course, I have to change this IP address to 10.02.15 and this port to be 5050. Okay? And let me try and submit this. Let us see if we got a connection back. So we got a warning here. Okay, it says that unable to connect to 10.02.15. And we don't have anything in here, so it says that connection refused. So either I have written down something wrong or it doesn't work. It isn't important because we have so many options in here. Let me try this with netcat, for instance, and see if this works. So netcat has both the shell codes, and we can listen the incoming connections with netcat as well, as I said before. But first let me try this with netcat command, and I have to change the IP again, 10.02.15, and the port is 5050. So let me submit, and let me go back and see if we got the connection. And I believe this time we got the connection. Yeah, we have the meterpreter session opened in my Kali Linux. So let me try to interact with the session. If it works, let me try to run some commands. Let me run sessions L, and I don't have any active session. So even though we got the meterpreter session, it just has been closed. So I suggest we can try this with netcat. Okay, so I'm going to exit out of this one, and I'm going to clear my screen, and I'm going to use netcat in order to listen for incoming connections. So NC for netcat, VV for verbose, and L for listening, and -P for specifying the port 5050. So right now this will listen any incoming connections from port 5050. And let me try with PHP one more time. We don't have to specifically call this with netcat as well. I'm going to try this with PHP one more time. Okay, so I'm going to change this IP to 10.02.15 and port to 5050. So 10.02.15, port is 5050, and I have to hit enter here because I need to be listening before sending the connection, and hit submit in here and come to see that if we got any connection back or not. So wait a couple of seconds before it got executes. Yeah, I believe now we have the session in here. So if I run ls, I can see the help index PHP and the source. So I'm definitely in the target machine. If I run pwd, I'm in dvwa vulnerable and exec folder. So this is a technique that you will be using a lot. Okay, if you're a pen tester, if you're a cybersecurity analyst, or if you're looking to get a good certification from OSCP or something else, you will come across this kind of practice when you deal with capture the flag contests as well. As you can see now, I hacked into the web server, and I can try to download something, upload something. I can try to delete the files, get the contents of these files. So you can check this, you can confirm this by going to pwd and try to find the same folder in the metasploitable machine as well, and try to compare the files and folders. But I believe we are definitely in the metasploitable machine. So you can confirm this on your own. You can run cd and ls to see the results, And as you can see, we got the same results here. So we managed to find a vulnerability, and we managed to take it further and got into the machine by hacking into with some reverse shell codes that we found online. So let's stop here, and within the next lecture we're going to discover some other vulnerabilities as well. Hi, within this lecture we're going to see a file upload vulnerability and try to find a way to exploit this vulnerability to have a session back from the web server as well. So this is a general page where we can actually upload an image. So most of the websites have this kind of feature, right? So you can upload pictures, you can upload profile photos, but sometimes they are misconfigured. So rather than uploading an image, some would upload a malicious file that can be executed on the web server and create a session back to the Kali Linux. And in the previous section, in the previous lecture, we have used a shellcode in order to do that. But for right now, we have to have a file, a PHP file or some other file in order to achieve this result. And we're going to see how to get one, don't worry. But first, we have to test to see if this feature is actually working or not. So I'm going to browse and I'm going to upload a regular image, a JPEG, to see if it is actually working. I believe we have downloaded this image in the social engineering section, so I'm trying to upload that image. And it says, your image has been uploaded to that folder. And as you can see, there are two dots in here, and it means that you have to go back 2 folders. Okay? In order to achieve this, I'm going to take the link in here, okay? Just copy this and create a new tab and paste it in here. As it's instructed, I'm going to delete the 2 folders in here, okay? I'm going to delete the upload and the vulnerabilities. So I'm going to add this hackable uploads and iOS image.jpg, and I'm going to copy this and add it to the end of this URL in here. And I think we have 2 slashes in here. Let me delete one, and if I hit enter, it will display the image back to me. So this is now working. I'm certain that this feature is working. Now I'm going to see if I can upload something other than JPEG in here. And in order to do that, I'm going to create an evil PHP file, a malicious PHP file. Of course, I can Google it and find it online, but there is a tool to do that in Kali Linux as well. And it's called Weebly. I'm going to show you how to use it, how to generate a file, and how to use that file in order to get a session back from the web server. All you have to do is to use your terminal, use the Weebly tool in order to create a file. So let me close this down and let me minimize this so I can open my terminal, and I'm going to run Weebly. Okay, if I hit enter, it will show me the instructions. It says too few arguments, and it shows me how to use this. All I have to do is just say Weebly generate and then give a password later on for accessing that file, and then create a path in order to save the output. So let me do it. For password, I will choose something simple like 1111, okay, 6 ones. And I'm going to save this file to my root, and I'm going to call this my connection.php or something. Yeah, I believe my connection.php will do the job. Okay, you will see where I will use the password later on. So right now just hit enter and it will generate that file for you, and you can find it in your root, myconnection.php. just now I'm going to try and upload this file in my web server. So I'm going to take this into my download so I can reach it easily. So let me try and browse and find this file, my connection.php, and try to upload it. And it is uploaded. So let me try to go to this link. Okay, if I click on this, this will be run. So let me open a new tab as I did before and try to delete these two folders and try to get this. Okay, copy this and paste in here, and I believe we have to put a slash between this dvwa and hackable and hit enter. So I didn't get any error in here. I cannot see the contents of the file, but I believe this should be working. So in order to test this, in order to get a session back from this file, from this server, I'm going to use Weebly one more time, and if everything works out, I will get my session back from the web server to my Kali Linux. In order to do that, again, I'm going to use Weebly. So here it says that you have to specify the URL and the password. So the URL is this. Okay, copy this URL, and I'm going to go over my terminal. I'm going to say Weebly, okay, and paste the URL in here, and then specify the password that we have chosen before, which is 11111, and then we are done. If I hit enter, it will try to run this file on web server and have a session, and as you can see, I believe we have a session. So if I run pwd, I will see that I'm currently in wdvwa hackable and uploads. I can try to browse in here and see the other contents as well. So we managed to hack into that web server again by using an upload file vulnerability. And we managed to exploit that vulnerability by using a tool called Weebly and creating some PHP files. So if you run help, you can see other commands that you can run on a Weebly session, and it is no different than meter-preter session. You can just read the comments and the descriptions in order to use this. So I'm going to stop here, and within the next lecture we're going to continue discovering our basic vulnerabilities. Hi, within this lecture we're going to focus on a vulnerability called file inclusion vulnerability. So open your DVWA as regular and come to here, this section, file inclusion. And you will see that this takes in a parameter called include.php. It is trying to load a web page called include.php. It's trying to access a file. Okay, when you see something like this, you can try to test for file inclusion vulnerabilities. And I'm going to show you what it means in a minute, don't worry. What we're going to do basically is try to access the other files and other folders inside of that web server using this question mark page argument. Okay, we're not going to have a session, we're not going to hack into that web server, but rather we're trying to get some information and display the content of the other files and folders on the same web server. And in order to do that, I'm going to test some common methods in here. First of all, I'm going to delete this page, delete this question mark page from here, and I will just try to load include.php regularly. Okay, so right now it takes in include.php as a parameter and tries to load this. So delete this, okay, and just hit enter and try to run this include.php. And as you can see, it says that fatal error, and it has an undefined function, but it shows us where this include.php is located, or it shows us where are we trying to get with this command. Okay, so here we see the general content, general folder on the web server. So right now we know this var w dvwa vulnerabilities fee and include.php. So let me try this way. Okay, so this is the default parameter question mark page is equal to this. So this works as well. So right now I know where this include.php is located on that web server. And maybe you can think that most of the websites do not give some extended error messages, okay? They do not give where their file is located on their web server. Actually, we don't even need that information, but I'm going to show you so that you can understand better. So I'm trying to get every possible information. For example, if you delete this, okay, if you delete include.php, you can try to get the content of this folder. And if it doesn't work out, you can try to get the content of the vulnerabilities. And it seems that we cannot display those folders. We cannot get the contents because in this case, we have to make sure that we are trying to reach a file rather than a folder. And I'm going to show you a common file that can be found on Linux systems. It's called password file. Okay, if you go to your computer, if you find the etc, okay, in this etc folder you will see a file called password. So let me search for it. Let me scroll down a little bit and search for password. By the way, here we have some other common files as well, but password file of course contains some sensitive information, so I'm trying to reach that file. I will try to reach that file in the web server as well. It hashes the passwords, in fact, so we cannot get the passwords, but we can see the registered users on the same web server. So let me try to reach that folder. So page is etc password and not passf passd. Okay, so as you can see, we can actually see the content of the password file. So now I can see the registered users. I can see if there is any other user having root privileges. I don't know if we have a test user as well, so we can use this information in our web pen testing process. And also I can try to reach other files and read the content of them as well. So this file inclusion vulnerability doesn't only give us opportunity to gather information, but also we can gather really sensitive information before hacking into or without even hacking into in the web server. And if it doesn't work out this way, you can try this. Okay, so this was the original page. Okay, so the fee, and we had the include.php at the end. This is the original web page. So rather than having these folders, I can just delete this and I can try to replace these folders with dots. Okay, so it means that go back one folder, as if we are running cd command. So I can replace all of this with dots. Okay, so this one as well, and then later on I can add etc password at the end of this sentence and then hit enter. It will display the password contents again for me. So I hope you enjoyed the basic vulnerabilities. Now we're going to stop here, and within the next section we're going to focus on cross-site scripting vulnerabilities.
Now we have seen the basic vulnerabilities that website servers may have within this section. And of course, we're going to dive into some detailed vulnerabilities in the following sections as well. So now if you're ready, let's move on to the next section in order to do that.